It's been over 3 years since our beloved Purple Dragon came back to our screens in the form of an accurate remake from the ground up. With the original games being a groundbreaking success for its time and still holding up today, an update was well needed to both the graphics and overall handling. The Reignited Trilogy was no doubt a triumphant return to form, and some consider it as the definitive way to play the trilogy. Despite some of its flaws and minor glitches, I was very impressed with the efforts put into this game, which was made by the same company that created the latest Crash Bandicoot game, Toys for Bob. And so I thought that there was no better way to celebrate this amazing remake, along with the new year, by doing a top 10 levels list with my favourite game out of the entire trilogy, Spyro the Dragon. Just to get things straight, levels that include bosses and flight levels are excluded from this list, just for the simple reason that they didn't quite make the cut. I'll also be using the reignited versions of course, as I don't have access to the originals, but I will expand on anything that the remakes have improved or made worse when comparing to the originals. So now that we've got that out of the road, get yourself comfortable, subscribe if you're brand new and hit the like button if you enjoy the video, as I present to you my top 10 levels from Spyro the Dragon. The inclusion of Cliff Town was actually a last minute decision, with it originally being Dry Canyon, but ultimately I decided that Cliff Town just had a bit more meat to it. It's one of the very few levels where you can actually see the end goal in sight as soon as you arrive, a unique talking point for sure. The level design feels very layered, like you're covering one small section at a time in a linear succession. Going up and down at different heights, there's so much to explore here and it isn't even really that big of a level. Once you've climbed your way to the top of Cliff Town and arrive at the end, you realise that there's still so much more to explore by gliding down to the never-ending desert filled with deadly vultures and a dragon set free, all while giving you the extra height needed to access certain boundaries and secret areas that you couldn't reach before. The small inclusion of the egg thief chase also gives the ground level some extra exciting content that helps maintain a well-balanced pace. The only issues I have with the reignited version are very minor, such as the lighting and shadows being a bit more on the dull side when comparing to the original, and how tiny that sun is now. I know it might sound like a nitpick, but gone is that big, majestic cowboy walking into the distant sun that we had in the original. All in all though, whether it's the original version or the reignited version, Cliff Town is absolutely the best desert themed level in the entire game, and maybe even for the whole trilogy. Well, it's definitely at least a contender. Where it all started. At number 9 is Stone Hill, which is basically the artisan's homeworld on steroids. Similarly to Cliff Town, one of my favourite elements of Stone Hill is its expansive design, with the ability to explore at ground level and then traverse to the grasslands above, which is a brilliant way to make use of the limited space to its full potential. Landing the player right in the middle and giving full control and freedom to explore is a smart way to let the player think that they're covering a lot of ground whilst also breaking them in slowly. This level features some great secret areas that aren't too obscure either, such as the hidden beach where you find a key and then down the well to open the chest and free another dragon. It's secrets like these that the original developers, Insomniac Games, could have really gotten away with not including, but just threw it in anyway to add more content to an already well fleshed out level. We're also first introduced to the egg thieves here, which is an additional challenge that I always thoroughly enjoy. It's a nice change of pace to the rather relaxing atmosphere, and speaking of atmosphere, the music to this level is just the epitome of how easygoing the original games were. I always found that Spyro was the type of game to play when I needed to relax, and this level just absolutely sells that feeling to me. Stone Hill is nothing majorly groundbreaking or challenging, but incredibly memorable that showcases the best elements of a typical Spyro level. Coming in at number 8 is Haunted Towers, a uniquely designed level that really gets the brain flowing and paves way for some interesting puzzle platforming. It starts off in a very unusual way. with you going from room to room, unable to defeat certain enemies and open certain doors, only to eventually find a fairy that gives you the super flame ability to progress, which is really cool. Going around flaming these shielded bodies has never been more fun, with a strict time frame and narrow platforms to navigate around. Eventually we're welcome to a supercharged pod, which is when the level really starts to expand. There's so much mystery when charging through all these doors and finding out what's behind them, whether it's a dragon, an enemy, or a new area to explore. Talking to one of those dragons also shows the birth of the famous line,
"Hold your horns, here comes Spyro,"
which is a golden moment in my opinion. Busting open these doors, you find two new areas. One is a courtyard that's filled with some vicious enemies and leads you to the portal home, but the other area, where it doesn't look like much at first, is actually a stepping stone to reaching further land with the help of the supercharge. From there is another beastly challenge to conquer with a quick getaway leading back to the centre of the level, making it full circle. Haunted Towers is an incredibly well thought out level that's packed full of secrets and challenges and is an absolute visual masterpiece for both the original and reignited versions. It's around this time with Spyro 1 where the difficulty spike is quite visible, with High Caves being one of those levels that shows it off the most. Unlike its furry counterpart's first entry, Crash Bandicoot 1, Spyro 1 is not actually a hard game to begin with. It's fairly easy with a few challenging moments, but I vividly remember High Caves being the first level where I properly started losing lives, and I loved that. Finally a bit of a challenge. There's some tricky platforming that relies heavily on timing and mastering the glide ability, wizards and windmakers whose attacks are fast and unpredictable, and those creepy caves with the vicious and relentless robot spiders that definitely cost me a few lives for sure. When you play this level for the first time, it's very clear that this was constructed by the same team that were behind the glorious Ratchet & Clank games, with its non-linear structure that includes a few paths to explore from the very beginning. But a very interesting element of High Caves is the use of its supercharged pods, a trend that follows almost in every level of the Magic Crafters world, giving you an area to freely explore with different speeds, momentums, heights and routes to take. It's very much trial and error, but it doesn't punish you for doing so, with a few fairies to come and save you if you so happen to fall. The visual enhancement with the remakes also helps this level stand out more, and everything in general just looks more appealing if I'm being honest. Oh, and again, another brilliant egg thief chase? I'm starting to sense a bit of a pattern here. Possibly one of the most underrated levels in the entire game and even in the entire series. Misty Bog is a perfect example of how a Spyro level should be balanced, challenging yet relaxing at the same time. I would easily say that this level has the best variety of enemies in any Spyro level. Huge plants, wild boars and tricky lizards are scattered everywhere and all require a very fast response that keep you on your toes, which isn't seen very often in the first game. Though this level will definitely kick your ass a few times, it remains to be a relaxing experience the whole way through, which is helped by the dynamic soundtrack, a feeling that I mentioned back with Stonehill. The level design of Misty Bog has a real natural flow to it and is really what puts it at the number 6 spot, with the second half really ramping things up. Having to continue by going down a tree trunk, which is a very unique way of progressing, you notice that the level starts to open up and expand more than you originally thought. Climbing up those ruins and gliding over to the swamp in the distance is a very memorable moment in Spyro for me, and is one of the first things I think of when this game is mentioned. I've never really been a big lover of bog and swamp levels, but I feel like Misty Bog does it right, mainly due to the improvements that was made with the reignited version too. Where you could argue that the original depicted a Misty Bog more accurately with its limited visibility, I feel like this is one of the levels that really benefited from a graphical update the most. The addition of giving it more of a bayou feel really gives the level an extra bit of charm that I felt was missing in the original. And hey, even one of the dragons has my nickname, so surely that's a bonus point, right? I feel like this is a hot take, but at number 5 is Magic Crafters, the best realm in the entire game. It's also home to the iconic title screen from the original, something that I really wish Toys for Bob had kept in with Reignited. Magic Crafters is everything you need in a typical homeworld, with its expansive design, secret areas, tough enemies, supercharged paths, a memorable soundtrack, and not one but 2 egg thief chases? Like, come on, quality stuff. It provides us with some of the best levels in the entire franchise and an absolutely stunning landscape to explore. Magic Crafters is also where we first discover how to supercharge, which is an incredibly special moment for the series as a whole. Charging in general with Spyro has always been so damn satisfying, but if you make it faster and more powerful, well, then it becomes twice as exhilarating and 3 times as more fun. Combine that with Reignited's own spin, where your momentum gradually becomes faster and faster, and you've got some of the craziest gameplay ever seen in any platformer. There's a great combination of strategy and aggressiveness with both its combat and platforming, and creates a great dynamic which really makes you think before charging in willy-nilly. Something that I never noticed is that Magic Crafters was actually featured in the Spyro circuit track in Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which is just a testament to how memorable this realm is. It's always such a magical experience coming back here and continues to carry that sense of calmness that is so familiar with the original trilogy. Magic Crafters is packed full of content and charm, but whether you're a fan of it or not, it is undoubtedly one of Spyro's most iconic levels for sure. A prime example of the phrase less is more, Ice Cavern uses simple level design to create an expanding, comfortable experience. Situated in the walls of a frosted canyon, this level follows quite a linear path as opposed to the more open design that we're all so familiar with. Immediately you're welcomed to a gorgeous vista that reminds me of a conversation between developers Mike Stout and Tony Garcia from Insomniac Games. During the developer commentary series on YouTube for Ratchet & Clank 2, they mentioned how the designers wanted to present each level as this stunning landscape that really showcases the level as soon as you jump into it. Showing the player what's in store for them, I get the feeling that this was an early concept of that idea. Traverse through the warm stone hallways and isolated ice caves while defeating off any tough Norks that get in the way. My favourite Norks being these giant brutes that take a couple of bashes to knock them down a peg. Reaching the end of the level, you realise that, in typical Spyro fashion, there's still much more to explore and discover as the ice cavern continues to expand. Very similar to Stone Hill, but done better in my opinion. It makes use of the limited amount of space and takes advantage of that. Also, the soundtrack to this level creates a real dynamic between serious and fun, with its dramatic atmosphere at the beginning, leading into the bouncier tones that eventually take the wheel for the remainder of the track. One of my favourites from the moment I played it, Ice Cavern is a true gem. Alright, in third place is Treetops, a level that shows just what sets Spyro the Dragon apart from other platformers back in the day, and probably still does with modern platformers. An end goal is in sight, but there's more than one way to get there, and it rewards your curiosity for exploring every available path. Insomniac Games went above and beyond for the construction and design of this level. It's definitely one of their most complex, and it quickly became a fan favourite back in 1998. The return of the supercharge is back and provides with some of the best gameplay it has to offer. Seriously, the speed and adrenaline you get from this goes harder than that bag of gear you bought from the club back in the 90s. Oh, and the music. Oh, the music absolutely slaps. That bouncy, epic feel sounds like it would fit perfectly in a cheesy action movie, while still sticking to the swamp vibe that comes from the Beastmaker's homeworld. The genius behind these original soundtracks is Stuart Copeland, a man who understands his craft extremely well, considering that he's the drummer from The Police. Mind blowing! Another very unique thing about this level is that no matter how many times I play it, I always manage to get lost and approach it in a very different way each time. It never becomes frustrating, and in fact, it's one of the very few times in my gaming experience where being lost actually makes it just that more fun. After figuring Treetops out and connecting all of the areas together, it becomes this giant seamless roller coaster which just feels so damn satisfying once you've mastered it. Although I often hear people complain about the difficulty spike, but I personally never had too many problems with it. Sure, there's a learning curve and it involves some trial and error, but it definitely isn't rage inducing like. Try doing the dev times in CTR, now that is rage inducing. It was definitely a close call and an easy contender for the top spot, but Wizard Peak makes its way to second place and damn, it really is the peak of Spyro when it comes to design and just overall charm. At first you explore these gorgeous interiors where you fight off big and small enemies. The bigger brutes aren't too dangerous, but those little green wizards give you a run for your money and definitely aren't afraid to kick your ass. But then you arrive at a number of supercharged pods, and similar to the likes of treetops, haunted towers and high caves, it involves a certain mastery as it definitely challenges your skill and knowledge on how to use it effectively. There's so many hidden areas in the distance to reach, and that adrenaline rush is back again with the supercharge, kicking more ferociously than ever. Rewarded for taking those big leaps of faith never gets old, and gliding along the gorgeous landscapes is always a treat too. Once you approach the end of the level, you notice that there's still so much more to explore and collect, but where else could you possibly go? Well, if you just turn left at the beginning of the level, you'll find an entire section still left to be explored. Damn! Trotting along the rooftops and higher grounds is just extra content that adds to the overall magical experience of this amazing level. At its core, Wizard Peak provides some of the most engaging and fun gameplay the series has to offer, with a great balance between fast and slow pacing. The soundtrack is on point too thanks to Copeland, and it really encapsulates the joyful and bouncy charm that these games are so well known for. One of the best levels in the entire game, and for the whole franchise for sure, Wizard Peak is a perfect example of how Spyro quickly became a household name and loved by so many. Well, we've worked our way through some banger levels and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Don't forget to subscribe if you're brand new, leave a like if you enjoy it, and let me know what your favourite Spyro levels are in the comments below. Now before we get to the best of the best, let's have a look at some honourable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. Without a shadow of a doubt, Dark Passage is the best level in Spyro the Dragon. I completely fell in love with this place the first time playing through due to its unique design and constant surprises everywhere you go. As you run around these midnight caves, flaming off all sorts of terrifying bodies as you progress to the very centre of the stage, the level seems quite short at first. But if you take a good look around, you'll notice multiple caves and pathways that lead you to further destinations, and the level eventually becomes this big giant maze. Expanding so much further than you initially thought, Dark Passage quickly becomes the best example of how curiosity and exploration is rewarded. The Spyro formula at its absolute peak. It feels like an endless journey, but it definitely never gets tiring, with great twists and turns that really subvert your expectations and creates for some of the best level design in any platformer. Those cheeky wee jesters from the Dreamweaver's homeworld make an appearance again and play a much bigger part in the level this time. They have you approach those vicious demon dogs and big intimidating turtles in a much different way, while also adding to the overall atmosphere with their glowing lamps that create for some really gentle lighting. The music here is some of the best in the series, with so much character, magic, charm, mystery and attitude, matching up perfectly with the level itself. As soon as you hear that majestic guitar swooping in, you just know you're in for an epic thrill ride. It absolutely screams Spyro to me and is incredibly memorable. So memorable in fact that the main melody was actually used for the titles in Reignited. No wonder. Dark Passage really feels like something straight out of Alice in Wonderland and just gives off a good vibe. I feel a real sense of warmth and comfort with this one. Everything from its style to colour palette to the music and to its layout all have a superior quality to any other level in the game. This has always been my level of choice and it is yet to be topped in my opinion. It just doesn't get any better than this. So there you have it, my top 10 levels in Spyro the Dragon. I hope you enjoyed the video and let me know in the comments what your top 10 are. Take care of yourselves, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.